Hello and welcome once again to Big Time Basketball. I'm Chris Hagan. You know, just 2 weeks from right now, quarterfinal action will tip off in the Big Ten tournament right here in Indianapolis. But first things first, 4 games on the slate last night, including a rivalry matchup in West Lafayette. It's our Big Time Game of the Week. Purdue hosting in-state nemesis Indiana. The Boilermakers had won 6 straight in the series and go ahead and make it 7. Purdue tops the Hoosiers 57-49, and WXIN's Wes Woodward was there.
A big one Thursday night with postseason implications as Indiana's 2 Big Ten schools squared off here at Mackey Arena in West Lafayette. A very sloppy game between Indiana and Purdue, both squads suffering through horrendous shooting. Indiana, the Hoosiers on the glass early, but a late spurt from the Boilers in the first half. Eric Hunter Jr. leading the charge as Purdue would lead by 9 at the half. A personal 5-0 run by Evan Boudreau would push the Boiler lead to 14 early in the second, and from there, they would ride that cushion. Travion Williams, 19 points. Eric Hunter Jr., 17 points on the night as Purdue wins it 57-49, a season sweep of their arch rivals, and 7 straight versus IU.
You know, it's really the first time for us. You know, we've struggled, we've been inconsistent from an offensive standpoint. And can we beat a good team when we don't shoot well or play well? And I thought we played a little bit better today. Obviously, we didn't shoot well, and sometimes people confuse the two. But I thought it was a good grinded out win, even though it was pretty hard to watch.
As for Indiana, it's back on the bubble, a place they thought they vacated after knocking off Penn State. Freshman sensation Trace Jackson Davis just 6 points, as IU has dropped 10 of its last 11 versus Purdue.
You know, every team's playing for something right now. Each game's hard. There's unbelievable teams in the league, and it's just been a grind. And we're down the home stretch here, so you got to keep pushing through.
Next up for the Hoosiers, another road tilt at Illinois on Sunday, while Purdue will have to wait till Tuesday to tangle with Iowa in Iowa City. In West Lafayette, Wes Woodward, Big Time Basketball.
Another big rivalry game in Evanston last night. They play for the Land of Lincoln Trophy in football, but just for bragging rights in hoops. Illinois visiting Northwestern. WCIA's Brett Behrens has the story from the Illini perspective.
Illinois basketball hasn't had a winning record in Big Ten play in a decade. The Illini could guarantee themselves that with a win at Northwestern Thursday night and essentially all but lock up an NCAA tournament bid with their 11th conference win of the season. It would also be their 5th road win in league play, tying them for most in the conference. And sophomore Alan Griffin stole the show, scoring a career-high 24 points on 9 of 11 shooting. What an X factor the New York native could be for this team if he continues to light it up from deep like he did in Evanston. He leads the Illini from beyond the arc in shooting north of 40% for the season and says it feels like he couldn't miss against the Cats.
Can't get too high in the middle of the game. You know, I celebrated, but in my mind, I was still focused and ready to get stops and head back on the other end. I'm approached to every game with the same mindset like this.
We see that all the time in practice, and we forget, you know, Alan's a sophomore who hadn't been in those moments a lot. That's growth. And to be able to ride that hot hand, that feeling, that adrenaline.
With its 11th Big Ten win, Illinois is now all but assured a spot in the NCAA tournament. It moves forward to think about seeding now, and with 3 games left in the regular season, they could still move up quite a bit. That starts on Sunday with Indiana making the trip to Champaign, coming off its loss at Purdue. Covering Illinois for Big Time Basketball, I'm Brett Behrens.
The year just keeps getting worse for the Wildcats. There's the final tally, 74-66 Fighting Illini. Cats now just 1-16 in league play. They started the week getting blown out by Minnesota, and WGN's Dan Roan has that story.
Well, Northwestern's tough season is slogging toward the end. The Cats had 1 game this week ahead of Thursday's battle with arch rival Illinois. Minnesota came to Welsh Ryan Arena and ran off with an 83-57 victory. The Gophers came into Evanston still holding out hopes of an NCAA tournament bid, and in this league you can polish up a resume in a big hurry. Northwestern's big issue in this game was Daniel Oturu. Playing with a bunch of pro scouts in the audience, Minnesota's big man scored 22 points, pulled down a dozen rebounds, and made 3 out of 5 from beyond the arc. Northwestern had a tough time shooting the basketball, under 40% from the floor and only 3 of 18 from three-point distance. It's been a long time since the Cats' last victory. This was their 11th straight loss in the Big Ten, and overall, they've dropped 16 of their last 17. Pete Nance had 11 points against the Gophers, and Ryan Young had 10, the only 2 in double figures. Help is coming, but not until next season. Covering the Wildcats, I'm Dan Roan.
A 5-game winning streak has Michigan back in the national polls. Last night, the Wolverines looked to make it 6 straight as they hosted Wisconsin. Wood TV's Jack Doles tells us about one of the reasons why Juwan Howard's team is red hot.
Over the last couple of weeks, no team in the Big Ten is hotter than Michigan. Yes, it helps to have Isaiah Livers back in the fold, but the emergence of key role players is proving to be a big factor for the Wolverines. The guy who comes to mind in the last week or so is freshman Franz Wagner. He scored in double digits against Indiana and Rutgers, and then followed that up with a career-high 22 points in a victory at Purdue. If Michigan can continue to get significant contributions from Wagner, he could pose some real threats for opponents as we enter the stretch run of the regular season.
I just know that Franz enjoys playing against competition, and he understands that this season we've had some really good opponents that we faced, non-conference as well as Big Ten conference, and with his experience from playing over in Germany, he's getting a chance to adapt to the collegiate style of play.
Now the Wolverines have 3 regular season games left, including at rival Ohio State on Sunday. Michigan's right in the middle of the conference standings right now, so they can use any victory they can get to help with positioning for the Big Ten tournament. Covering the Wolverines for Big Time Basketball, I'm Jack Doles.
And there's a look at the final from Ann Arbor, 81-74, Wisconsin. The Badgers were on a 4-game winning streak heading into Thursday night, and now they pushed that to 5 with the road win. They beat Rutgers on Sunday in Madison, and WFRV's Burt Griffin has that story.
Well, the Badgers have been trending upward ever since that loss to Iowa 1 month ago, and following Sunday's win over Rutgers, Wisconsin has gone 5-1 since then. Now, Greg Gard's team went back and forth with the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, but built a 16-point lead in the second half. Nate Reavers and Brevin Pritzel each had 17 points, but it was the guy who wasn't a part of Wisconsin's December loss to Rutgers that was the biggest factor. Micah Potter came off the bench to score 18 points and grab 9 rebounds in their 79-71 win.
Honestly, I think the biggest thing is that we stuck together. We've come closer with everything that's happened to this team this whole year, and I think that those things have just made us stronger as a team. We're doing more things off the court, doing things together in the locker room. We just feel like we're a team, we're a family.
But yeah, just having fun. I mean, basketball's, it's a game. If you're not having fun doing it, you shouldn't be playing it. And so I just try to have as much fun, doing it as possible.
We didn't handle adversity well early in the year. We didn't handle consistent physical play well. We didn't handle when things didn't go well. We didn't respond right. This group has mentally toughened up and responded and matured, and I'm proud of them. I mean, this group has come through more than any team I've been around.
And the Badgers are on the road against 19th-ranked Michigan Thursday night, then back at the Kohl Center in Madison with a Sunday date against Minnesota. That'll do it for Big Time Basketball. I'm Burt Griffin.
Hey, thanks, Burke. Rounding out the Thursday night schedule, a late one in Lincoln. 23rd-ranked Ohio State visiting Nebraska, a team that's won just 2 conference games all season long. WCMH's Whitney Harding is on the Buckeyes beat.
Away games have been Ohio State's Achilles heel this season. With their loss to Iowa last week, the Bucks fell to 3-6 on the road this year. Only 2 road wins in Big Ten play. So heading to Nebraska Thursday night, OSU looked to change their bad away game mojo, but it would be even harder because their grit guy, Kyle Young, was on the bench with a high ankle sprain. The thing is, when this Buckeye squad is hitting threes, they are very, very good. The basketball Bucks came out on fire from long range, shooting 50% in the first half, building a 16-point halftime lead. With no Young in the game, Chris Holtmann took a page out of the Houston Rockets book, played some small ball with the guards leading the way, and it paid off as Dwayne Washington and C.J. Walker combined for 25 points in that first half, giving the Bucks the cushion they needed. Second half then, Caleb Wesson took over and made the paint his home on both ends of the floor. 16 points, 18 rebounds for him as Ohio State routs Nebraska 75-54. Now next up for the Bucks, a ranked rivalry showdown as they face Michigan, number 19 Michigan that is, at home on Sunday, and it's going to be a big-time game here in Columbus. For Big Time Basketball in Columbus, I'm Whitney Harding.
Ohio State gets the road win, make it 2-15 in the conference for the mayor. That's Fred Hoiberg. For more on the Cornhuskers, here's KCAU's Jake Jones.
Time to talk some Big Red hoops. Nebraska's losing streak, it's up to a baker's dozen. And at this point, head coach Fred Hoiberg's squad is pretty much playing for the future. Those minutes getting spread around just a bit more. Thursday night, the Huskers were hoping to snap the skid on ESPN, hosting a ranked Ohio State squad. Unfortunately, things did not go their way. They did hold Ohio State's only 40% shooting, 24% from three. So there are some numbers you can look at and say that these guys are getting just a little bit better week in and week out. Some pretty solid defense, really beat off the dribble and really off some nice shots by the Buckeyes, and that's why they're probably going to be in the big dance here coming up soon. Ohio State only 6 assists in the ball game. Nebraska actually out-assisting them 8-6. Another thing Nebraska did right, they outscored OSU 36-32 in the paint. The Buckeyes, like I said, got plenty of difficult shots to fall, plenty of shots outside the paint to fall, but, just kind of a tough challenge for the Huskers when you're talking about a top 25 team and a team that's still kind of working on its rebuilding phase. Next step for the Huskers will be on Senior Day, hosting Northwestern, where Nebraska 9-7 all-time versus Northwestern, and that's probably as good a chance as any as they're going to have at trying to snap this skid. It's that final home game, and again, the Huskers winless on the road this season. That's your check on Big Red. Covering Nebraska, I'm Jake Jones.
A battle of two teams going in opposite directions Wednesday in Minneapolis. Maryland poised to win the Big Ten regular season title, while Minnesota nervous about its tournament fate, living life on the bubble. A win over a top 10 team would have been golden for the Golden Gophers' resume, but Daryl Morcell hits a three-pointer from deep with less than 2 seconds to play, lifting the Terrapins to victory. WDVM's Alif Kareem has more on Maryland.
In their last outing, the Maryland Terrapins pulled off an incredible comeback victory over Minnesota, taking that game 74-73. The Terps trailed by as much as 17 in this game. Credit to the Gophers for an incredible shooting display in the first half, making 7 of their first 8 three-pointers to build that lead. But in the second, Maryland came alive, holding Minnesota to only 26 points and taking this one all the way to the end. Daryl Morcell was their hero on the night, icing the game with a 3-ball with 1.9 seconds left on the clock. This is the third time this season where the Terps have erased a deficit of 14 points or more to seal a victory. Now, next game, the Terps have the luxury of staying at home and welcoming ESPN's College Game Day for their matchup against Michigan State. That game is set for an 8 p.m. start Eastern Standard Time. Covering Maryland, I'm Alif Kareem.
Hey, thanks, Alif. A wild one in State College Wednesday night. Penn State had a 21-point lead over Rutgers, but the Scarlet Knights stormed back to take the lead. The Nittany Lions would need some heroics from Miles Dredd to survive. WTAJ's Peter Terpstra follows the Lions and has their story.
Life is better when you're winning. Penn State basketball did not win a game last week, but that was just 1 week. And it seems like it was longer because Penn State keeps on having a record-breaking season. Let's talk about that. Penn State had lost its last 2 games entering Wednesday, both of those by 8 points to Illinois and Indiana. Next was Rutgers at home. Penn State was up by 21 points before they let that lead slip away. Then sophomore sharpshooter Miles Dredd hit the game winner with 28 seconds left. It was the only three-pointer they made in the second half, and Penn State squeaked out a 65-64 win.
My job is to shoot the ball. If I don't shoot, I don't play. So it's kind of like, if you don't play defense, you don't play.
Look, it's in the left-hand side of the column. It's a win. We can sit here and talk about, hey, you blew a 21-point lead, an 18-point lead. Bottom line is we won. We won 21 games, and we've won 11 in the Big Ten.
Penn State only has one more home game left, and you're going to say goodbye to Lamar Stevens and Mike Watkins. Both of those guys definitely leaving a mark on Penn State basketball. But before then, you got to play at Iowa on Saturday. Covering Penn State, I'm Peter Terpstra.
Hey, thanks, Peter. And as Coach Chambers says, just win, baby. Penn State hangs on for dear life, 65-64. It's the Scarlet Knights' 3rd straight loss. They're now at 500 in Big Ten play at 9-9.
It's a tough game, so I think after every loss, you hang your heads. These guys are tough, though. I love my team. We're resilient, we're tough, and we'll bounce back. That's what we do, and we did it today too. That game could have got, ugly, and it didn't. Our guys battled. They stayed the course. Again, we're playing elite teams. You got to play elite for 40 minutes. You certainly can't give up leads like that. And we've been doing that on the road, and that's not a good trait.
After a 3-game losing streak, Michigan State has now won 3 of the last 4 to get back in the top 25. The Spartans beat 18th-ranked Iowa on Tuesday, 78-70. Next up, a showdown with the league leaders Maryland on Saturday night. Nick Mantis from WLNS is with Sparty as they prepare for those Terps.
A revenge game is set for Saturday as the Michigan State men's basketball team travels to take on the Big Ten Conference leading Maryland Terrapins. Now the Spartans are sitting right behind them, tied for second place in the Big Ten Conference standings. And the last time that these two teams met, the roles were reversed, and ESPN's College Game Day was here in East Lansing. When we spoke to the team this week, they told us they know exactly what's at stake.
It's a good team. It's a key game for us, though. You know what I'm saying? If we want our season to keep going, you know, we want things to accomplish on our season that we want. It's a game that we need. We want to do everything we can, play our hardest, and come out with a victory.
You know, we're going to try to do what they did. They spoiled our game day. They spoiled our reunion. And we're going to try to do the same thing. I got a lot of respect for their team, just the way they play. Cowan has been really sharp. He struggled from the 3 a little bit lately. Smith has been really good, but it's those 3 guys on the wings that have been dynamite.
Another interesting observation at practice is that Michigan State, who's sponsored by Nike, was practicing with Under Armour basketballs. That's because Under Armour's founder, Kevin Plank, he's an alumnus of Maryland, so the Spartans had to get used to this style of ball in order to be prepared for Saturday night. Covering Michigan State for Big Time Basketball, I'm Nick Mantis.
Here was that final from Lansing, 78-70. Rocket Watts matches a career high with 21 points, while Cassius Winston added 20. Luke Garza with 20 for the losing Hawks. And how about this? Joining us in studio this time around, it's Adam Rosso. We talk Hawkeyes with you each and every week, but in town for the Combine. So now we get a little FaceTime. And what do we think about this Iowa basketball team right now? Obviously coming off the loss there.
You know, I think they let one get away on Tuesday. I think Fran McCaffrey and the whole team would probably say that. Tough place to win, the Breslin Center, but obviously they had a lead in the second half, and then Cassius Winston and company kind of took over. But with all the injuries this year and everything that they've had to overcome, I think already being a tournament lock at this point in the season is got to be a big feather in the cap of Fran McCaffrey.
Especially this season in the conference. I mean, who knows how many teams will get in, but just a meat grinder of a season. And when you start thinking about so many close games, we've seen them this week, so many games come right down to the wire, and it's the teams that find a way to win those games that survive in advance when it comes March.
Yeah, and they should have another one Saturday at home against Penn State. Obviously, they lost a tough one at the Palestra the first time around. But yeah, you said it, a meat grinder. I mean, every single night we see teams with big leads lose the lead. We see teams like Maryland the other night fall behind and get a miracle finish to win at Minnesota. So every night is, I think, a blast. I've been to a bunch of these games, obviously, and it's just been up and down and really tension every night at Carver Hawkeye Arena.
Must be a joy to watch Garza in action as well. You think about not only maybe Big Ten Player of the Year, but maybe National Player of the Year. This guy, he's really come a long way and has grown a lot in his college career, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's on pace for actually breaking the single-season record at Iowa. I think he's about 40 points away, so he could break it next week if he has a good couple games here at home. But yeah, I mean, relentless. And you ask every coach after these games what they've seen from last year to this year out of Garza, and he's in better shape, and he's just relentless. He works at every possession. He really is tough getting up and down the floor. Iowa likes to push the pace, and he uses his angles really well, which is kind of old school. He's kind of an old school basketball player in that sense. He uses the angles, he uses his body well to get guys in certain positions where they can't block his shot and they can't move him off the post. And obviously, we've seen tons of 20-point games, and as you said, he could be a Wooden Award winner this year.
Well, you'll be back in town in a couple of weeks. We're talking about the Big Ten tournament here in town. Is this team built for March?
You know, I think if they get everybody back, they are. C.J. Frederick, he's missed the last 3.5 games. He hurt his ankle actually at Assembly Hall in Indiana about a couple weeks ago. They need him back because he really helps the entire offense flow. Joe Wieskamp struggled without him. He's still their second leading scorer, but you've seen teams really get physical with him. So I think with Frederick back, obviously Garza playing the way he is, if this team especially gets into a double-bye situation, I think they can do some damage in the Big Ten tournament. And then Fran McCaffrey's been really good in opening round games. I think he's undefeated with the Hawkeyes, but they haven't ever been to the second weekend under McCaffrey. So that's kind of the challenge. I think this team, like I said, if they can stay healthy, they have a really good shot at doing that.
It's Adam Rosso on the Hawkeyes beat. We will see you down the road.
All right, definitely.
Here's the schedule for this weekend. Adams Hawkeyes host Penn State, a top 20 matchup. And then Michigan State visits Maryland. That's an 8 p.m. Eastern tip. Could have big regular season title and tournament implications. Keep an eye on that one. On Sunday, 4 games on the slate. Indiana at Illinois, 2 o'clock Eastern. Michigan and Ohio State, a top 25 matchup there. A couple of teams struggling will get together in Lincoln. Both of them hungry for a win, Nebraska and Northwestern. And Paul Bunyan's axe not on the line, but Minnesota and Wisconsin will play on the hardwood. Time for our big-time prospect, a player we featured here a couple of weeks ago, making a college choice this week. Evansville Rights' Christian Lander picking Indiana over several other Big Ten schools, as did Culver, Indiana's Trey Galloway. WTTV's JoJo Gentry has his story.
Trey Galloway is one of those players born with a ball in his hand. At 2 weeks old, Trey was taken to the gym to watch his dad coach a basketball game. Since then, they've been a father-son duo on and off the court.
I've been the head coach for 18 years, and Trey's 18. So it's been fun. You know, that's the only thing he's really known me as the head coach.
Mark Galloway is in his 10th year leading the boys basketball program at Culver Academies and will coach Trey for the last time this spring as his son eyes the end of his senior season.
On the court, he's more of my coach, then off the court, he's my dad. There's been times where obviously I've been some trouble with him, and it's been tough to butt heads all the time.
Probably in an individual setting, he's going to challenge me and I'm going to challenge him, and it's a little different.
The father-son dynamic isn't something that's put into practice out on the court. In fact, it's a separate relationship that's even pulled them apart at times. But ultimately, it's something that's kept them together.
There's two different relationships. There's me as the coach, and then there's me as the dad. And the dad and me would much rather be fishing with him than playing basketball as a dad, although I'll rebound for him and things like that. But when we start working on stuff, it has to become the coach part of me, because we're too intense.
But that intensity lowers when they're around Zachary, the Galloway's oldest son, who helps everyone keep things in perspective.
Well, he's high functional autistic, so he's the older brother, but he kind of looks up to me a little bit.
Campus knows Zachary. They knew Zachary before they knew Trey. So that was kind of exciting for Zachary to be, known, and for the community to embrace him and love him.
He'd die to be out there doing the same thing I'm doing. So I just really take that in and just take mental notes of it, that he wants to do the same thing I'm doing. So I might as well go and do out there my best.
Reporting from Culver, Indiana, I'm JoJo Gentry.
Hey, thanks a lot, JoJo. Here's a look at the Big Ten standings. Maryland looks to be in control for the regular season title. The Terps, though, with tough games remaining at home against Michigan and Michigan State and a difficult road contest at Rutgers, the Knights have been solid at the rack all season long. Now, the Big Ten hoping to put a record number of teams from one conference in the NCAA tournament this year. These teams are going to have to get the job done and finish that deal with some strong resume-building wins. Talking about Indiana, Purdue, and Minnesota. They're living life on the bubble. Hey, that will do it for this edition of Big Time Basketball. For all of our correspondents across the Next Star Nation, I'm Chris Haying saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.